Okay. All right, so today we're going to start with painting the pots, the rest of the pots. Last week we did the ones that are terracotta colored, and today we're gonna work on the rest. So I'm using here Payne's Gray and a little bit of burnt umber and white. So the Payne's Gray I'm using is golden. Golden Payne's Gray has more blue in it than the other ones, the Quitex one. So if you're using golden, put a touch of burnt umber in it, and then white, just because it just make it a little bit earthy, not too blue. And then why? Because it goes well with the rest of the terracotta around and the warm colors around. But if you're using Liquitex, it's just Payne's Gray and white. So I'm going to start with, let's start with putting one here. I overlap a bit with, I'm using a round brush. Any brush will do that you're comfortable with. I'm going to go a little bit darker in here, in this area, and down here. And then I can highlight a bit there. Do the same for this one. I'm darkening a bit on this side using Payne's Gray and a bit of burnt umber. Now I can take highlighted one and put it there. Okay. Let's do this one. Payne's Gray, and put white in it. And that small one on the side. Darken a bit the side. Okay, now I think we'll keep We'll do this one in Payne's Gray. We'll keep this one white, 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 and white. So 4 white, and the rest is Payne's Gray. The reason I'm doing this, I'm keeping the white not as many because white is too stark, but it's nice. It's not going to be white white. It's going to be kind of an off-white, brownish. That's good. Okay, so now we're mixing titanium buff or unbleached titanium or any color that's kind of an off-white that you have. And I'm putting ultramarine violet in it. So when you take titanium buff and then you put ultramarine in it, you will get that beautiful kind of soft purple, bluish purple color. But if you want it to be darker and more earthy, then with the tip of my brush, I'm putting a touch of burnt umber in there. And these two combinations of burnt umber and ultramarine violet will give you a beautiful, cool color for the first layer of the pots in here that we want to give. We want to give that color that looks like it's an off-white warm color, but we need the first layer to be a little bit cooler, and that will give us the shadow part. And then we'll put on top the highlight. We will highlight that. And you see it blends in nicely with the rest of it won't kind of jump out, and you won't feel like it's out of place in between all of the other colors we have. So we're going to do this. And it still looks really light already still, even with using ultramarine violet and burnt umber, it still looks really strong. So it's okay. We will work on that eventually, and we will highlight this color with more of warm colors. All right, let's do this. Now placing them strategically in the right place, we'll take the eye in a circle. So here we have one more. And the one in the front here will complement, the one I'm working on right now will complement the stuff I put in the window, the colors in the window. This will dry darker, and if I feel like when it's completely dry it's not enough and it needs to be darker, then I can glaze it and make it darker. Okay, this is good. All right. I think it needs to be a little bit darker. So I'm going to take more of the ultramarine violet, a little bit of burnt umber in there, and go darker. Yeah, that's better. Here. And this is what we're going to use for the floor, the right here. So we're going to use a combination of both. I like the color that's on the reference for the entrance, the floor, because it's not too, it doesn't clash with the rest, because we're going to have so many colors with the pinks around and the flowers around and the greens. So this, I would like to keep this down here neutral. Now, before we do anything, since we have brown, and I'll do this and then I will stop. Burnt umber. Let's take titanium buff and see if this is going to work, or we might need a bit of yellow with this, or yellow ochre even. Yeah, I'm going to need a little bit of yellow ochre in here. Oh yeah, definitely. Let's take some yellow ochre in. Some white. Because titanium buff is actually it's not really a strong color. It's just a an off-white. So there. So I have titanium buff and burnt umber, and then I added yellow ochre to that and a bit of white. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do the stands. I always like to start with a dark color because I can control my values when I do this, the values. Otherwise, it will look too light and it will take over. So I always think that I feel that using dark color first is easier. Okay. I'm going to let this dry, and then I'm going to do the same. I'm going to take a little bit of burnt umber with this. And we're going to have flowers there and all sorts of colors. So there. That will tie in with the yellows that I have up here with the lights, that yellow in here. a little bit of dark over here, just to give this this part here an edge, using titanium, no titanium, ultramarine violet and brown. My color is still, the paint is still wet, so it's blending softly. Okay. All right. I'll keep it for now, just the way it is, and let it dry, and then we can come back to it. All right, let's highlight the whites in here. Let's see, I'm just going to try, instead of using Naples yellow, I'm going to try to highlight with yellow ochre and white, or yellow ochre, white, and titanium buff. Yeah. So they're not going to look white. It's going to kind of look more like a warm white. Okay, let's do that. Let's see. That's not bad. So if you want to tone down this color that I'm putting right now, which is titanium buff and yellow ochre, if you want to tone it down, use ultramarine violet, because ultramarine violet is opposite yellow on the color wheel. Purple is opposite yellow on the color wheel, so it will tone it down and make it more grayer. It won't be too heavy. I'm trying to, it won't be too bright, sorry. So I'm trying to kind of leave a bit of a darker color on top here, because the flowers that we're going to put are going to be casting a shadow over the edge of the pot. Tone them down with, tone it down when I am highlighting right now. I'm seeing that it needs to be toned down a bit with ultramarine violet. Yeah, that's better. Tone it down. If you see that, if you feel that it's too light, shouldn't take over, because this is the actual main focal point of all of these are the flowers. So we don't want to, we want this pot to be there, but we don't want it to take over. And once we put the flowers in, if at that point I feel that I can go ahead and highlight the vase, then I'll highlight it at that point. But before I put the flowers, I'm not sure about my values yet, how they're going to look. if they're too strong, too light, too dark, too yellow. For now, it's okay. They look fine, especially because I'm toning them down with ultramarine violet. Should be okay. All right, that looks okay to me. And if it's I need to work on it a little bit more later on, I can do that. I'm gonna stop for now, pause, and we'll continue. Okay, so now we're going to work on the steps and the ground in front of the store. So I have here titanium buff and Payne's gray and burnt umber. So let's take first a bit of titanium buff, Payne's gray, not much of a titanium, a little bit of titanium buff, burnt umber. So when you mix burnt umber and any blue, not any blue, burnt umber and let's say ultramarine blue, you will get almost a black color. It's beautiful black. So I'm mixing right now burnt umber and Payne's gray, which has a blue in it. It's a gray that has blue in it, so it's giving me a very nice dark gray, bluish gray color. So I'm gonna put this on this step right here. Oh dear. And another one here. Right there. And a third one right here. These are the risers of the steps. Okay. Now I'm going to take titanium buff. I'm going to let this dry. I'm going to take titanium buff. I'm going to put the titanium buff in the same mixture I was using before, which is Payne's gray and burnt umber. And I'm going to put titanium buff in it now. Not much. Again, I'm leaving some room for more highlights, so it's mid-tone. And I'm going to do this. And another one right here. And now we're going to take, we're not going to do anything, we're just going to take titanium buff, more titanium buff. And we're going to highlight kind of in the middle. Because the paint is dry, wet, not dry, I can highlight and blend softly so I don't end up with a harsh line on both sides. Here. Darker here, darker on the left, because the pots are casting shadow over the step. Another one. Okay, now see this is too dark right now. So I'm going to take burnt umber, mix it in here, put more burnt umber in this mid-tone that I was using before. And I'm going to come here and then kind of give it some, a little bit of a texture. Again, on this one, of course, we're going to have more texture or more highlight over here because this is where the sun is hitting, and then darker on the left when we get to the left part. All right. Again here. Good. All right. Let's take a little bit more highlights. So more of the titanium buff mixed with mixture of Payne's gray and burnt umber, because of course acrylic dries darker, so you have to keep on highlighting until you get to the value that you want. Yeah, it's good. All right, now you take a medium kind of size brush. You can take this titanium buff I have here. Actually, I'm going to stop for a minute because I want to show you how to change from this off-white color into the darker color on the sides of the Payne's gray. So I'll stop for a minute so you can watch after. So now we're going to paint the...
Are we putting stones in afterwards?
Pardon?
Are we putting stones in
Yes,
afterwards?
yes. So this is the first layer. We're preparing to put the stones on top. But I like the idea of the soft stones that are on now. And I'd like to keep it that way. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to paint what you see underneath the stones, what the color underneath the stones. So we have more of an off-white right here, kind of, and then on the sides it becomes more and more into a grayish color. So we're going to do that right now. I'm going to start with the off-white color by mixing titanium buff and burnt umber. Oh, jeez. Okay. And then we'll put the stones on top of that later on. Let's darken a little bit. This is it's a bit too light. So I put a bit of more of the burnt umber. You know, if you have a little bit of ultramarine violet from before, put it in as well. Let's see. Yes, that's better. Good. Okay, let's take this. You get to the edge, just fluff it. Fluff your brush stroke. Don't make it too heavy. Kind of no sharp edges. All right, now for this corner, that's why I'm stopping. I'm going to take a bit of the Payne's gray and brown. So I'm darkening this corner. There's a lot of shadow in here. Light is coming from the left. So the pots are casting a shadow on the floor right here. So it's a combination. All right, now I'm starting to get here to this part where I can start adding the Payne's gray. So I'm adding Payne's gray to the same mixture of titanium buff, burnt umber. I had a bit of ultramarine. Okay, ultramarine violet. Let's put a bit more. See, look at this. This is kind of too blue, too gray blue. So I'm going to take a bit of the touch of the burnt umber with the corner of my brush and make it more earthy. Yeah, that's better. Still, I would make it a little bit more earthy, more brown than, you know, it's too gray. added a touch of titanium buff, and I'm just highlighting the entrance here in front of the steps, highlighting it a bit. There. Now one more little detail, and it's going to be burnt umber and Payne's gray. Push this in because this is dark. Now with the same color that I have here, which is Payne's gray and burnt umber, I'll put a little bit of titanium buff in here. Very soft, grayish, earthy tone. Let's start putting my stones in there. And I know that if you look at the reference, you will see that the stones are in a certain way. They put them anyway. Doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be exactly the same. As long as the stones that are close to the steps are oval, not round. And sometimes they're even a line here. I'm going to zoom in. See if I can put the light on here. Okay, that's better. So I'm just going to be doing the stones in here, and it's more like a glaze. It's not heavy paint in there. So put them any way you want. Don't worry about the shape. The pattern, I should say, not the shape, the pattern. Yes, you need to keep an eye on the shape. Oh, this is too light. I always keep in mind that whatever I'm putting in here is going to dry darker. So closer to the steps, your stones are kind of an oval color, shape, oval shape. And then closer you get to the bottom here, the bigger or wider the shape is going to be. So I'm still here, kind of an oval right now. Very soft. We don't want strong kind of statement in here. And they're kind of irregular shape. And actually, the more you get closer to the bottom here, the bigger they are. And you have to be careful. You have to be really kind of patient when you're doing something like this. I know it's easy to start adding bigger and bigger because it's boring to do this. But keep an eye on your shape. Keep an eye on the shape of the stone, the placement as well. So at the bottom here, I don't want them to be too strong. because I want them to disappear kind of in the background at the bottom. Well, kind of, yeah. Yeah, it's good. And in between the big ones, I put small ones. So not all of the stones are the same shape. They're not the same size. Now, when I get to the part where I added more of the Payne's gray, and right here and here, I'm going to darken the stone. Oh, that's too dark. So I can see them. But at the same time, I don't want them to be too strong. Wet my paint brush, so the paint, so it's easy for me to apply the paint on top. There. When they dry darker, and that will give me as well the sense of dark at the side and light here because of the actual light hitting the ground in front of the store.
Leah, what color are you using to make the stones?
Okay, so it's Payne's gray, a bit of burnt umber, and titanium buff. So less titanium buff on the sides when I get to the dark part. Sorry, yes, less titanium buff. I still want it to be soft, but I need to see them on this dark part because this color right here, this value here, is not going to show on this. It's showing here because it's light. The background is light, but they're not going to. It's not going to show on the side. See now, it's not showing on the side. So I darken. I get more. I put more Payne's gray and burnt umber. This is busy. This is going to make it look really busy if we're not careful. Because again, that's not what we want to show. We want to show the flowers. Now, one more thing and then we're done. I'm going to take Payne's gray and burnt umber, mix them together well, small brush. I'm going to come here and give the side of the stone a little bit of an edge. Just to make them look like they're a little bit higher. That's a touch of a kind of a small detail in there. Just makes it more 3D. Thin line. Don't make it too thick, just a little bit of a thin line. It just makes it more, it kind of anchors the stone. And not on all of them. We don't want to overdo it. We want to give a hint. Okay, it's good. All right, that's it. We don't want to overdo it again. Like I said, we're just kind of soft kind of design in here, pattern that is not too strong. Now I can go in and highlight in between with titanium buff, burnt umber, touch of the Payne's gray, so the ratio is different now, and then I can, if I want, I can do that. I just go in and give in between the stones tiny bit of a highlight, so it looks like this part of the store is, the entrance of the store is highlighted, and it's more kind of inviting. It complements the rest of the what we're trying to do with the rest of the painting, which is keep the light around the door and darken what's away from the door. And that again, what will help doing this will help help me reshape the stones, or make them, if I find that the stones I have are a bit they're not the right shape. But mainly it is about highlight. And I can wait for it to dry and then go in again and highlight more if I need to, or I find that it needs more highlights. I'm softening these ones in here. I'm finding them harsh. Okay. So we're keeping all of the highlights all around here in this area. Okay, so this is where we are right now, and we will continue next week.